some people were like, well, for new producers, I think anywhere between $250 and $500 is a good price point for an exclusive beat, which I agree with.
What's going down? It's the Music Entrepreneur Club podcast. My name is DJ Payne One. I'm here with Erinn Knight and Dame Ritter. And I don't have any pranks to play on Dame yet, so I got to recharge for the new year. Happy 2023, by the way.
Yes. Erinn, you look like you're in a cell, but happy 2023.
Damn, that sucks. It's going to get better. Don't worry, guys. More lights are coming.
Everybody have good holidays.
Yeah.
I don't really celebrate the holidays, but it's been cool. I've been on a 2-month, I'm like halfway through a 2-month leave of absence, sabbatical, whatever you want to call it. So it's been cool to chill. And my mom has enjoyed seeing me more since I'm in town more. So I try to go visit her, every couple of weeks. So that's been cool.
Nice. So you have 1 more month left?
Yeah, I'm going through the second week in February because I was supposed to go through the first week, but I got robbed of like the first 10 days of December. And I feel like people are going to try me. I think I got lucky because it coincided with the holidays, but I feel like people are going to try to get me back in. We have a lot of intro calls today, but I've agreed to be on the intro calls because I'm the face of a lot of stuff, but I'm not executing anything. So we'll see how people respect my boundaries. I'm respecting myself. So yeah, I'll be out until second week of February, but I'll be at Grammy week. So I guess that's work, but whatever.
Oh, dope. Well, definitely let me know when you're out here. I know that Digilog is planning an event for Grammy week. That's probably the only thing that I'll step out to if it does happen. All right, man, let's jump into it. Payne, you want to set up the first topic?
It strikes me as similar to the knowledge conversation last week. So there was a tweet that was, I would say, engaging. It received hundreds of responses. This was from BeatStars, I believe. And the question was posed, how much should producers charge for exclusive rights? And what was interesting about the responses is that they were so all over the place, but they were all from the same community, which is to say music producers. And I think that's, indicative of a lot of the foundational frustrations. My thing, I'm in the online music producer community. Everyone has a different opinion, it feels like, when anything comes up. I mean, anything. It's to the point where I posted for the New Year's just as motivating. It was a tweet that says we're all going platinum this year. And a bunch of dickhead ass producers were upset about that. And I'm like, what the fuck? So then and like, these are my positive motivating posts. These aren't, here's how the music business works. Read these 2 copyrights, check out this. It wasn't anything dry. It wasn't anything pedantic. It wasn't anything, with any ounce of negativity behind it. And it was like, do you know what it takes to go platinum? You don't get it, do you? And I'm like, it's a fucking tweet. This is how you're going to start 2023. So the types of attitudes in the producer community, there's just so much variation. And that also is reflected in the experience levels, the knowledge levels, and the opinions of all of the aforementioned topics, which is in a way interesting. It keeps things very interesting. But I think this particular conversation about exclusive pricing shows you how very little agreement there is, how there are really no discernible standards or common practices among the music producer community at large. Once you start getting towards, I think, experienced sellers, top music producers, whether they're in the industry or they're just kind of the top sellers on the internet, you're going to find more homogeneity if you will. For example, I did a video about this where there were some producers who were upset at me for having a Black Friday sale where I had, beats for I mean, it was a crazy deal. But I did it just for the weekend, and they were upset. They're like, man, why are you selling beats for this cheap? You're ruining the whole game. I was like, all right, well, I used to feel that way. And then I actually experienced things. And
what was the deal?
It was 30 beats for $49.99 at the lowest license. And then, you could go up, and a lot of people did purchase the higher price points for, the unlimited license with the stems and so forth. So that's the kind of sale that I would have cringed at, 10 years ago. And then I jumped in and I'm like, wait a minute. No, you got to give people something at least one day out of the year, understanding consumer spending, understanding how the years, how various months, and especially around the holiday season, how that affects consumer behavior. And then also I have 2,000 beats in my catalog. So having this type of deal is nothing to me. I mean, it's more just like an appreciation for my customers. They appreciate it. It's a great way to close out the year, but it's also a way for me to make some money during a time when consumers' confidence is low because of holiday spending and travel and ending of the fiscal year and so forth. So people were upset about that. And I made a video where I just clicked on the names of the commenters who were mad at me saying I was ruining the game. And I just looked at their price points on their beat stores. And the two guys that were upset were selling their lowest MP3 lease for $100. Now, I compared that to Dilly Got a Bumpin' because he's one of the few people who disclosed how much he makes off BeatStars, and it's about $1 million. And his lowest MP3 lease is 70%, around 70% lower than that. So I think
he makes $1 million. What, like just all time or a year or
all time? I think since 2018.
Okay.
But if this guy has made $1 million doing this and his price point is $70 cheaper than someone who's saying, your cheap beats are ruining the game, clearly this is a conversation that needs to be had.
Wow. Well, I mean, just quickly, just remind people what an exclusive beat is, because I think there was some confusion in the comments. I know I hate to go backwards to like square zero, but just remind people exactly what an exclusive beat is and what it is not.
No, it's true, because I posted a screenshot, and I very rarely do this, but again, it was more motivational stuff like, hey, look at this. I just got 500 for an exclusive on BeatStars, and people were upset about that. Why are you charging so little? But the one, to speak to your point, Dame, the one response that was, it came off as upset, and that's how the internet is. People get upset first and then ask questions later. It was from a gentleman who said, "Oh, so you just gave away all your rights and no royalties or nothing for $500?" I'm like, where do you see that? It's an exclusive beat. That all that means is from henceforth, this license, this beat cannot be licensed to anybody else. The person who has purchased this from this point on is the sole licensor, or licensee, I should say.
And then how do you if it's a beat that's been sold before, how do you handle it going forward? If it's a beat that's been licensed non-exclusively, but now it's exclusive, how do you handle the beats that had been licensed prior?
Well, the default agreement allows for those to have legal precedence. So anyone who, say, maybe got the basic license and there's a 50,000 stream cap or something like that, once they hit 50,000, now their license is no longer valid. Let's say they never hit 50,000. Well, then their license is valid for the remainder of the term. So that's
a risk of people purchasing non-exclusive beats, right? Like you're right. But what if it had unlimited? What if the license was unlimited streams?
Then whatever term length they have. So say it's 10 years, they're covered for 10 years.
So it's unlimited licenses do have a term in terms of number of years. It's not forever.
They can. I mean, there's nothing stopping a music producer from changing their terms. That's why, to me, one, I don't think it's fair if you spend $100 on an unlimited license and then someone comes along and buys the exclusive. Oftentimes, the person who buys the exclusive will either think that that they have the legal right to go after those people and get all their songs taken down. That becomes a mess. I mean, in no universe is that fair. It's like if you lease a vehicle and someone's waiting in line, they're like, you know what? I'm just going to pay the dealership an extra, $500, and I'm going to carjack you because that's what I'm. That's my legal ability now. That's not how that works. You have to wait it out. But that's why I personally will often discourage recording artists from getting an exclusive, because they'll contact me and they're like, I want an exclusive to this beat. I'm like, bro, number one, this beat has been licensed so many times. It's not even, I would have to charge you a ridiculous amount to even make it worth it for me. Number two, why do you need it exclusively? You haven't even recorded a song to it yet. You have no idea how it's going to do. Why don't you just get a lower cost license and try it out? I mean, if the song becomes a hit, then, we have to figure something out, but we can make it work. The fact of the matter is, right now, the person taking on the most risk is the rapper who's licensing the beat exclusively. So yeah, sure, I could try to get thousands of dollars out of you, but that just doesn't feel right either for me. So I'll try to find a happy medium. But what I'll also do is I now have beats that I upload that are just solely marked as exclusives. You can't lease them. So that way it makes sense for a recording artist to get one of those exclusively because no one else has it. And none of these problems arise.
Yeah, to me, that would be the ideal way for producers to set it up, because obviously things can get really messy. Erinn, in your negotiations with artists, with producers for your artists, how do you approach exclusive beats? And do some of your artists purchase non-exclusive beats?
In the past, I've had artists purchase non-exclusive, but most of my artists co-produce, and they all have like little teams that they work with. So it's like when the producer is making new beats, they're just sending them directly to my artists and maybe a handful of people. So most of the producers that we work with don't have beat stores, or if they do, they're doing like loops or like creating their own sample or like catalog music. Do you know what I'm saying? So I haven't dealt with that much. I had one artist that we had an issue with that. He got a track, paid for the lowest lease, released it as an interlude on just kind of like a little mixtape. And it was the number one most requested song from his fans for like 3 years. I no longer work with that artist. We had a plan of release that he didn't want to go with. We were going to do more of the Web3 direct to consumer with that. But he was apprehensive. I think he missed out on a very valuable opportunity. But that's the only time that I've ever experienced something like that. Most of the time we're getting exclusives, but they haven't been leased before. But going back to the exclusive, I just want to clarify, an exclusive is not a buyout. That's the terminology. I felt like so many people in the comments of that BeatStars thing kept being like, oh, you're saying $200 for an exclusive? Because a lot of some people were like, well, for new producers, I think anywhere between $250 and $500 is a good price point for an exclusive beat, which I agree with. Like, if you're a new producer, I think anywhere from $100 to $500, if you're not leasing it to a bunch of people, because to Payne's point, if you're getting a shit ton of leases every week for anywhere between $20 and $50, it's no point in selling the exclusive, because then you have to take it down and you could be earning revenue on that track. But for a lot of people, they didn't understand that an exclusive is not a buyout. A buyout is when typically, I've only ever seen this with labels. Now, independent artists who clearly don't know what they're doing are requesting these, but they'll say, hey, we have $10,000. We're going to buy out all of your rights. You get no publishing. You get none of the master. Here's 10,000 or here's 30,000. There's a lot of songs like that, especially in the Atlanta hip hop scene, when a producer is young and they're and a song starts to go, they'll buy out the rights. And it's very predatory, in my opinion. I just found out yesterday that one of my artists did a work for hire for a feature that's blowing up right now. And it was a gratis work for hire. And so they're not getting anything, and I'm pissed. And I'm about to go back to the label because I wasn't managing them at the time. So I'm going to reach out to that label and be like, hey, we need to renegotiate this because the song is blowing. It's landing hella syncs. She is getting publishing. So I will say that. But on the master side, if you're going to tell me you made her sign a work for hire, she needs to be paid. A gratis work for hire is the most predatory thing in the world for me. And I'm like, I would love for her to get a percentage. You don't have to retroactively pay her, but let's fix this. So I don't know. Labels will do stuff like that, but that's the difference. There's a lot of people upset about, there's no way you should do 500 for an exclusive is a great rate. Like if you're not getting streams off the track, the buyout is what you don't want to sell for $500. That's the only time you're giving up your rights, y'all.
Is what for in terms of the feature agreement, is there a possibility of just getting a swap, like getting a feature from that artist? Do you want that, or because I see that?
Oh, it's a little bit complicated because I manage both the artists on the song now. And truth be told, the artist who didn't get paid made the hook and a verse. So it's a feature, but she's over 50% of the song.
Okay. But she is getting her publishing now. So she owns publishing on the song?
Yes, but the label absorbed most of the publishing. So it's a minuscule percentage for all of the work that she contributed.
Right. What do you mean when you say the label absorbs?
So they took like 50% of the publishing.
The label did?
Yes.
Oh.
Right.
Okay, that's weird.
Wait a minute. Let me say something then. Any artist watching this right now and hearing that a label took half of their publishing on a song.
So the label didn't take, it was the label's publisher. They'll say it's not them. I just want to clarify that because they'll say it's not them.
So the songs are making money and the artist isn't getting it because of that move. That was a move. This is what's happening all the time. It's happening to artists all the time where someone will see something doing well and they'll try to buy the rights. We talked about this with Caleb Hearn. There are people who are out here sniping records and purchasing the master and publishing either for the whole song or for as much as they can, depending on who else was involved, just so they can get the royalties and kind of nudge the other creators involved out. So what I'm saying is recording artists watching this should be upset to hear that this is happening. And they should say, okay, this could never happen to me. All I want to do is make sure that those people apply that same set of morals, because we're talking about morals here, what you will accept for yourself, what you believe is right for yourself. I want you to approach everybody in the music business with that same set of morals. If your morals are not consistent, they're not morals, which makes you an immoral person. And I'm sick of going online, having conversations about buyouts where the recording artists are like, if I give you 200, 500, whatever, it's fuck you don't get any rights as a beat maker. I'm not paying you twice, which is that shows me that you don't know shit about the music business. But it also shows me that at your core, you are immoral. You have evil greed in your soul, because what you won't accept for yourself or your people, you will gladly treat another person in that same way.
I agree with that. I literally texted my artist and I was like, their greed is disgusting because
But wait, hold on, Erinn. What kind of deal does she have with the label where they can just
take I can't say too much because I still have to. I just found out yesterday. They just opened their offices today. I have to have some major conversations. So if you already know me, you know what song this is about. Like if you know anything about my artist, because I've already mentioned the gender of the artist, right? So the issue is that this label drops compilations, right? So if they put up the money for the compilation, the issue is that the song was, they will take people, they'll say, hey, create a song and bring it to us for our compilation, we'll release it. But when they do that, they own the master. Predatory. So what we do, if one of my artists is signed to that label, I don't have any other things to say about that, but so anytime we release a song on their compilation, we say, no, this is one of her masters that counts towards the recoup. Because I think it's ridiculous that it's just a random song that we have to promote. All these things we're pushing, but it doesn't, if it takes off, it's just the label song. I think that doesn't make any sense because we're contributing the same type of energy, whatever. And the marketing spend will be better if we take it under our own recoup versus them just throwing it out there for themselves. They'll throw a video behind it. They'll put some TikTok dollars and that's it. But if we take it, then I can say, hey, we want to put marketing spend, right? So that was the situation. The song came about from the other artist and a producer who had just started working with the label. They decided to put it on the compilation and asked my artist to be a part of it. I said, yes, this is the song. And she kind of went back and forth with me. And I'm like, this is the song, right? So I'm like, let's make this one of your masters. We do that. So we only see our side of the paperwork on this one. And so I saw what we got. Cool, whatever. And yeah, now I'm managing the other artist. It just landed one of the biggest syncs I've ever landed in my career. I'm like, hey, send me the paperwork that they sent you when you signed this deal with them. She sends the paperwork. It's work for hire and gratis. And I lost my shit. So I have to go and then it's hard too, because now they're going to feel like they have the upper hand with this because it is landing syncs. But I think the predatory nature of this is what I'm going to bring up to them. Like, I don't care what you think. Are you okay with having this type of integrity? Like what Payne is talking about. Like, my artist owns the master, but you wrote off all of the artist's rights because you knew that this artist didn't know what they were signing away. You know what I'm saying? Like, that to me is crazy. She co-directed the music video, came up with the concept for the song. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, she orchestrated this song. In any other world, it would have been her song. So then even looking at the back end, I thought it was a co-release, and it's not. It's just under my other artist. So this is not me saying, oh, because I now represent both, I'm more interested in this artist's interest. Even if I didn't represent her, I found out that it wasn't a co-release some months back, and I went and asked them about it before I was managing the artist, and they were like, oh, well, we decided, and they kind of played around with it. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm just not interested in working with parties who are not interested in protecting up and coming artists, especially when you work in the scene that they come from and you're interested in the integrity of things overall. They just continuously show me that they're not.
I'm still surprised at like the short-sighted nature of just labels, artists too, actually everybody, like, oh, well, not everybody, but a lot of people, because it's like, if you repeatedly do this, eventually people are going to look negatively upon you and your label, you would think, and it would stop kind of. And I know that the label's approach has always been like, well, we don't really think these artists are going to last hella long anyway. So why not snatch as much as you can, while you can. But it's just wild to me that this short-sighted nature, like people aren't seeing the value in building long-term relationships. Like, why create this negative energy when you could have just, give people a percentage, just do the right thing and like make another one and another one and another one and another one. Like, it's pretty.
I think it's because people don't care about people, one, but two, if you think, okay, every 3 years we're going to have an artist turnover. If you create and this is kind of their trend. If you create a successful track every 3 or 4 years and that successful track blows up, it'll attract enough young new artists who will give up all their rights. And that's kind of their cycle. Their cycle is they sign artists to slave ship deals, and occasionally one or two of them will have a song or whatever, same as a major label system. The indie label is doing the same thing. It just blows my mind because typically in a major label system, you have more money to play with. Like, for reference, they offer for full deals what we got as an advance for one song from Def Jam. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's not even any real money. So my thing is like, and then with Def Jam, we still owned 50% of the record. So I am unsure. It's literally they're preying on the ignorance of the youth, And the thing is, when you send both sheets of paper and you're sitting here telling the artist, oh yeah, 16% on publishing, and it comes with another thing, you're kind of like, oh yeah, I'm not charging them for this feature. That's how she saw it. I'm not charging them for this feature. I'm like, yeah, you weren't, but you also don't have any rights to the song, like no rights to the master, whatever. So even yesterday when I was signing off on the sync, I'm like, yo, can you send this in the other group chat and email thread with my other artists? And then I get the paperwork and I'm like, oh, that's why they didn't send it in the other thread, because she has no rights to say yes or no to this. They don't even care, but she's like the face of it. They're promoting it as such too. Do you know what I'm saying? So I am very frustrated. That's what made me say, okay, today I'm going back to work just for a little bit, because nothing gets me upset like the mistreatment of artists or like just people who are less educated, but especially when you know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like that's crazy to me. You're intentionally taking advantage of people, especially young Black women. That gets me fired up.
Yeah, and I've been talking about this a lot, the whole buyout thing, because now we're kind of dipping a foot into that topic, which I think maybe we should dedicate a whole segment to in an upcoming episode. But I was seeing a lot of creatives, rappers, singers, songwriters, producers who were, I don't know if I want to talk about this at a different time, but who were, I guess, touting the benefits of a buyout, or at very least saying, hey, when you're in this music business and you don't have anything and someone comes along and offers you 10,000 for a beat, but they're taking all of your rights away, you're going to take it. And I'm looking at them like, but I'm not. That's the thing. When I had 3 jobs and I was living with my parents, and if someone offered me that deal, I just because I studied the music business and back then everyone was saying never take that kind of deal, I knew not to. The thing is, if they're offering you 10, 20,000, they know in their minds the second they pay you that 10 or 20, they've already quadrupled, if not more. They probably 10x that money. So
they're not offering you that money if they haven't already made a deal on the song. That's a fact.
Yeah.
The same that going back to the Def Jam deal. They came, they said, oh, can we, they were trying to sign us. And I was like, no, like my artist is too new. And they're like, okay, they heard this song. They're like, oh, wow. Well, will you sign? Like, we'll give you, I think they wanted to give us like 5,000 for the song. And I was like, what? That song is 4 years old. So come to find out, they had made a deal with the Jets. They had told the Jets that they would sell them the 1 year exclusive on that song as their song. You know what I'm saying? But the fortunate thing was I had friends in the Jets office. So it was so crazy how it happened. So it's like, of course, then I went back and got everything I wanted from that deal. Do you know what I'm saying? To the point that they released us after that 1 year because they were like, we're getting raped on this. I'm like, if y'all are going to try to play me. So I agree with you. The thing that you're saying, though, is people are offering money for buyouts. Imagine finding out that your artist gave a buyout and they didn't get any money for it. That's crazy to me.
It's all crazy. I mean, all of it is crazy. I'm not going to say the name because I just Googled it and I don't think it's public information. But I know this happened because I was working with the manager of this particular producer who had a huge hit. I mean, a big, big, big break in their career. They sold a beat. I'm definitely not going to say the artist, but huge record. And before the song even came out, I think I think it was just during the general negotiations for the beat, they offered the guy, I think, a good amount of money, 20 some odd thousand or something. And like, I've never made more than 20 some odd thousand off of a single beat, which I think is a lot of money. But when I made that money, it was for an advance. It wasn't for them buying my rights. Actually, that was a great contract. I got my master's back now off that contract, and I always maintained my writers and publishers share. In this case, and this was a while ago, this was kind of before the internet beat leasing and all that. I think the beat leasing is good in a lot of ways because it teaches producers to be more business minded, but it also creates a situation where a lot of producers are in the business and don't understand the business. But back to this producer, he sells the beat because 20,000 is a lot. I think he had a family. Anyway, once the song comes out, a publishing company approaches him and offers him $1 million for the publishing, for his publishing on this song, because it's a huge song. And he's like, yeah, I definitely want to do that. That's great. Well, then they do the research and they realize the label bought his publishing. He owns nothing. So that $1 million that the publishing company is offering him, now that's off the table. Like, imagine how that feels. And what was the point of that other than greed? Other than the people in the offices saying, we're going to make so much money off this, let's just cut him off now. Let's just slice his legs off before the track meet so that he just hemorrhages there in the corner, so that his family starves along with him, so that we can make and squeeze every little cent out of this. And this is a terrible story. And anybody who listens to the story and is like, yeah, I'm going to turn around and do this to a producer, I'm going to buy a $200 exclusive from them and cut them out of all their future royalties, your song is probably not going to blow up. But if it does, again, it goes back to immorality. You are immoral. You wouldn't allow this to happen to you or a loved one. A lot of people are doing this to one another. And that's, I mean, people say, well, morals have no place in the music business. Fuck off. Seriously. I don't give a fuck.
I don't know if I don't know. Maybe labels are saying that while they're doing this, but I'm just playing devil's advocate. Not even devil's advocate, but labels are probably doing this. I mean, obviously they have more information than the artists, right? But if they're doing that, because what they'll say is, they're going to buy out the rights. And, most of those songs will never become like hits. So they're just like kind of gambling with more information, right? Not gambling the same way an artist would be gambling. A label has more information. They have information on trends and what their songs are doing. And, so they're definitely gambling with more information, but maybe it's as evil as Payne is describing it, but they're doing more educated gambling because they probably are buying a lot of stuff that never did anything too. And then they're like, the songs that do pop, there's a problem from the artist side because, how they give up their rights. But that's essentially what I think the label is doing. I don't know if people are really, and the people at the labels, they're probably not sitting in the corner going, "Oh, like I'm going to take advantage of these artists." They're probably, they're incentivized by the higher ups to.
You care, Dame. You care. You're saying they're not sitting there doing that, but I'm telling you they are, because
I think they're just thinking about like the money. I don't think they're like, "Hey, we're going to like really take advantage of these artists." Their bonuses and everything at the way that they're structured, the way they're compensated, they're trying to make as much money as possible.
I agree. You're putting profit in front of people. That is a conscious choice.
Right.
It may not be like, let me fuck this artist over, but it's like, I'm lining my pockets. I don't care about this other person.
Yeah, that's the end result. The end result is an artist getting fucked over. So there's really no other way to look at the outcome. And also, just to be clear, the labels are taking risks left and right, but they're not losing money.
Right. But so the imbalances to me and why the MEC exists is just education, right? Like, the labels are more educated than the artists. A lot of artists fail to do go through their education. So that's going to happen in any industry in where you're less educated in what you're working on. Like, you're probably not going to do as well as the people that are educated in the space. Right. I mean, that's just.
Yeah, no. And I agree. And I think this is why I wanted to talk about, I think that behind closed doors, we had this conversation where I wanted to talk about comparing working within the independent label system and the major label system, in the sense that a lot of times the independent label system will be just mirroring what the majors are doing and not necessarily understanding fully why, and maybe having less flexibility because they have less education and fewer resources, less money. I've just been noticing that trend. So if you guys are cool with it, I want to talk about that. Maybe have a conversation about that and buyouts, because they relate. I'm seeing a lot of, and Erinn just is kind of speaking to that earlier, so I want to flesh that out more. But the idea that, like with the Def Jam situation that you were talking about, that was a win for you. The independent situation that you talked about, that was a total loss for that artist. So I'm seeing a lot of situations in which an independent label or unsigned artists themselves are stubborn on the one hand and greedy on the other. And then the overarching theme here is that they just don't understand the music business and aren't forward thinking. They're thinking about squeezing every cent from the situation now and dehumanizing not just someone like me, but a fellow creative, which I think almost makes it worse, because a lot of the people in this world are creatives and they're hands-on. They're working very closely with the musicians that they're exploiting, as opposed to the major labels. And I feel like when you push back on a major label, all you have to do, in my experience, a major label's 8 out of 10 times is going to offer you a terrible deal at the beginning. And all you have to do, with me, I've gotten terrible deals. The second a lawyer jumps into the email thread, suddenly that deal is exponentially better, where I'm like, wow, why was that even necessary? And it's just because they're fishing. They're seeing who's smart and who's not. If they can get away with it, they're going to get away with it. With an indie, I feel like there's way more pushback than from a major. Just because of the lack of education, just because of the difference in resources, just because of this idea that because you're independent, you need more, because of this narrative about, bossing up and ownership and blah, 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 that people are just perverting over and over and over and over again. And they're misquoting these artists. I'm not going to say names, respect to all the artists that are actually trying to teach people, but they take these platitudes and then apply it to a business they don't understand and start moving funny as a result of that. But I want to talk more in depth about that later.
So let me just ask you guys a question. And again, I'm all about giving fair deals. I'm all about long-term relationships. But let's say you went to a car dealership and you went to whatever, a Mercedes car dealership, and the salesperson made a mistake and and they accidentally sold you a car for, 30 grand when it was supposed to be 100 grand. Are you going, or now you take yourself out of the equation. Are most people going to say, hey, you're making a mistake, I should be paying 70 more grand for this Mercedes? Are most people going to do that? No,
I'm trying to understand the point that you're leading us to.
What I'm saying is, it's the same thing that the labels are doing with these artists with lack of education, right? The customer going into the Mercedes dealership knew how much that car was supposed to be. It was supposed to be 100,000. The salesperson, maybe it's a new salesperson. Salesperson was like, oh, I think this one's supposed to be discounted to 30,000. All I'm saying is that most people are going to be like, oh shit, I could get a Mercedes for 30 grand. I'm going to go get this Mercedes. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell whoever I know that they're actually giving Mercedes for 30 grand. Go get it. Some people might go get it and flip it.
So the difference is we're talking about human intellectual property. A salesperson missing out on, I'm not seeing this as the same, because yes, a salesperson can make a mistake for sure. And that could happen. And I get the point that you're making, but when you're talking about intellectual property, it's like somebody buying a mispriced Mercedes or selling a mispriced Mercedes is not going to affect their future much longer than the commission that they're missing out on. Do you know what I'm saying? But music is lifelong legacy. You're literally looting people of their intellectual property and ability to feed themselves in the future. And I think that that is what makes this completely different. And then Mercedes owns that car. That salesperson doesn't own that car. Whereas these artists own these songs and they're being uprooted from the thing that they own because they don't know.
Mercedes owns it and then you buy it and now you own it.
Well,
for sure, but the salesperson, the salesperson isn't the one who owns it, but and it's not the salesperson's legacy.
It to me, like, again, where I don't agree with you guys is I put more fault on the artist for running into an industry that you don't understand, signing shit that you don't understand. People have been telling you to get a lawyer. Now, if there's a situation where you got a lawyer and the lawyer fucked you over, then all right, then I'm like, okay, yeah. I don't agree with the way labels practice their business. But all I'm saying is, and we've said this probably on the first podcast, is that you go in with education, you understand your value, and you sign only things that you understand at the end of the day. If that is that any
I
other
don't disagree with that. I think that the artist should be educated. It still doesn't mean that the label is not scummy. Like when you're taking people out to lunch, calling them sis and bro, and so these artists are clearly these people care about me. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they're sitting here doing like little favors here and there. Let me hook you up with a free beat. The thought process, and again, this is not me shitting on the Christian industry, but I have to be honest. Like the Christian industry, of course these artists are going in thinking, oh, of course these people care about me because we share the same faith and there's some integrity here. Little do they know they're being robbed like in broad daylight and everybody is watching it happen. I just personally think that's different than going to a misinformed salesperson.
Yeah, well, it's like this. If I'm sending my kid off to school and I tell my kid don't disrupt in class, and the teacher's telling my kid don't disrupt in class, the kid knows not to disrupt in class. They disrupt in class and the teacher punches them in the mouth. I'm going to be, somewhat upset at my kid for knowingly violating what I'm telling that child not to do. And I'm going to beat the fuck out of that teacher. I'm going to shoot their car up. I'm going to light that bitch on fire because what they did to
I'm finding my child, all of their relatives.
Yeah, yes. Because like they know better. They're the adult in that situation. I'm looking at the labels the same way. The labels have all the knowledge. The artists don't. The artists are being idiots. I'm not here to say that artists and producers aren't. I'm so upset at producers for doing this stupid shit, selling beats as buyouts. I'm upset about that. But their intention, they're coming from a place of desperation. They're coming from a place of ignorance, just like a child. Whereas the adult in the situation, the person with the ill intent, the person who knows what they're getting out of the situation is unfair. That's the, do you give them more blame? I assign a little more blame towards that party.
Yeah, that example was wild. But I came into this industry with literally no music industry experience, literally none. I just came in it with a little common sense. And I don't feel like I've ever gotten taken advantage of. Outside of me paying $50 at that dumb music conference to have them listen to our music, that's literally the only time I felt taken advantage of. I lost $50 listening, having these A&R folks listen to one of our songs only to tell us like, oh, it's a good song. And I walked out of the room. And then that's literally the only time that I felt like I got taken advantage of.
Dame, so you're a rare combination, though, of knowledgeable and fair, because you're not giving people deals that you wouldn't accept, and you never move that way. And then ironically, too, you have artists out there who are talking about Dame robbed me and this and that. So that's, I think that's the other side of this conversation that you can.
I'll somewhat agree. I haven't really been taken advantage of a lot to my knowledge. Now, I do think I've been underpaid in a lot of places, but same thing. I came in with no experience, but I had a ton of common sense, and I'm from the south side of Atlanta. I'm like, if shit don't make sense, it don't make sense. Like, you got to explain this to me again. And if you can't explain it to me again, I'm going to call somebody who can. And that's when people get scared. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm with you. I'm not saying that it's not at all on the artist. I'm just saying that when you're in a situation, like Dane, you know, when people like, I'm signing deals with artists regularly. I'm like, hey, you need to go talk to somebody about this, or this is what's happening. I'm explaining it to them. You're like that too. So I'm saying, I just think it's a lack of integrity. I get that you don't, but I think it's a huge lack of integrity to know somebody doesn't know that they're giving up all their rights and to still let them sign it, especially when you have a trend of that. It's one thing if it happened once or twice. It's another thing. Now, that dealership, if that sales associate kept selling $100,000 Mercedes for $30K, that dealership will fire them. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like for the label to consistently be like, yeah, we made another bad deal, and that person is now getting bonuses for it. That shit is crazy to me.
I just want to add this, because when Erinn brought up patterns, this to me is proof positive that these people giving terrible deals know goddamn well what they're doing. Every time there's been a bad deal put in front of my face, they've always rushed me, and it was always a lie. I swear to you, Dame, every time I can name 3 situations right off top with major labels. There's one I'm dealing with right now where they offered, it was some sort of buyout. It just was a bad deal. They were planning on making a ton of money and cutting me out of it. And they were rushing. We got to get this done by today. If you don't sign by today, it's not going to happen. My very first placement with Def Jam, they said the same thing. You got to get this done today. It's not going to happen. This is a lie. When I talked about a record with an Atlantic A&R, same thing. And that was the worst deal I've ever seen in my life, ever.
I've never been a part of a negotiation like that. Like where
this is common. This is common for us.
For the producer community,
Erinn, I'm saying people respect you. I'm a Black woman in this industry. When I walk in the room, they assume that I just want money, and they assume that I'm stupid. I'm in the same situation. We've been renegotiating the deal for one of my artists for 6 months, and they kept being like, we need to get this done by the end of the third quarter. We need to get this done by the top of the year. And I said, for what? And they were like, well, she wants to drop music. I said, she's waiting till she has the right deal. We're cool. There's no rush on our end. And every time we wait, we get what we need. But it's like they create that urgency because they think that you're dumb and that you're desperate. And I'm like, we don't even make most of our money off of music, so we could wait.
But they think you're desperate because they know that most artists are. And so they're exploiting that. And to me, that's the proof of the immorality of the music business. If this is a consistent pattern of behavior that we're seeing from labels, independent or otherwise, or even from rappers, I'll get a correspondence from a rapper who I don't know who they think I am, but they're like, yeah, I'll give you $300 for the exclusive rights, total buyout, take it or leave it. I can walk away right now. Okay, bye. And then the second I say bye, they're like, okay, well, let's talk about this. So stop fucking lying to me. Who the fuck? But this is the type of thing across the board. It's just a manipulation tactic, and it's a manipulation tactic used by an immoral person who's about to rob you knowingly. If this were all innocent, if this were as innocent as the car dealership analogy where the person's just making a mistake, then they wouldn't need manipulation tactics. They would simply just say, oh, you know what? You're right. At the slightest sign of pushback or questioning. That's the unfortunate thing. We love you, Dame. I wish there were Dames at every label. I really do.
I'm just not. I'm not as naive to think that there's people not manipulating people, but I also think manipulation can be confused for just terrible negotiation tactics. Right? Like,
yeah, no, it can.
The pressure from their higher ups they might have some some metrics that they need to hit for the quarter. They got to sign a certain amount about, maybe they've been slow. Maybe this A&R person is just like, nothing's been happening. So their dumbass was like, hey, you got to do this today or it's not happening. And they're just terrible negotiators. Which it could be manipulation. It could be terrible negotiation. At the end of the day, if you know what you're doing, you're protected. Like, this is not an industry where anybody like forces your hand onto anything.
Yeah, but I think the biggest lesson is to not be desperate. And there are a lot of people who just, I'm going to put this in the notes too, that we can discuss this at a later time. Cause I think that's also, I don't know if you've seen this, Erinn or Dame, but a lot of creatives out there are on their last leg when it comes to their commitment to the music career, where it's like, they might be on year 4 and they've basically taken a vow of poverty or something for those last 4 years, just working on this, on their music careers. And a label comes along and they're like, all right, we're going to give you 20,000, but you got to sign this right away. And they're so desperate. They're like, 20,000 would save my life for the next 3 months. And that's enough for them to sign away their life for the next 3 years with a terrible deal. Cause the label's like, do it now. All right. I don't have time to get a lawyer. I don't have time to have managers look this over. I need this right now because this 20,000 will keep me from getting evicted and get a car. And I feel that because people are saying that when I'm like, don't do a buyout. And they're like, well, people out here are desperate. We got to take the money. The fact of the matter is, you don't have to take the money. You feel that you have to take the money. And the people that are offering you the bad deal are counting on that feeling, that psychology. They're manipulating you. So I want to talk more about that, because desperation,
some people, that really is the case though. Unless they have another way to get, I wouldn't reveal I would never reveal all your cards like that. Like, I would never let the label know that I got an eviction notice. Like, I would probably present posture like, like I'm good. Like, I would never let the label know that, but some people are in a pretty tough situation, right? So you do kind of have to take the money unless you got another way to get it, or you want to take the risk of doing something illegal like that.
No, I'm saying you don't have to. You feel like you have to take the money when the label offers it to you.
So what's the other option? So what would you do if you facing an eviction notice? You don't got no other ways to get to it other than maybe doing something illegal. Like, what would you do?
If I didn't know anything about the music business, I'd probably sign and fuck myself over.
Okay, but all right, let's say you do know something, but you need it. Like, you need it next month, or I don't know what the bad situation is going to be, but something bad is going to happen. Like, you really need money by next month. What do you do, man?
And I do know about the music business, and I know that this is a situation where they're about to really mess my life up for 3 years. It's a bad deal, but you have no other ways to get this 20 grand. You need the 20 grand. What do you do? I mean, if I know the music business, I know that this is a lie, that they don't need me to sign today, and that I have actually.
Well, you need to sign today, or you about to get kicked out the house. What do you do?
Well, they're not going to pay me that same day. My point is that if I understand, if someone's pissing on my leg and telling me it's raining, I'm not going to get my umbrella. I'm going to move my leg out the way. So regardless of what's happening externally, this is a terrible scenario, number one, because you're right. There are people in this situation where it's mostly a game of perception, because even if you sign right then, you're not going to get that money for another 2-3 months. So you just fucked yourself over for nothing, if that. So already it's this false sense of resolution. You're not resolving your financial situation maybe you could get a loan and you're like, I'm going to cover it, but you could just probably do that and hustle your way to that money anyway. So personally, and people are going to say I'm lying, if I'm in that situation, I'm going to feel a sense of power at the table, at the negotiating table. Because if you're offering me 20 for a bad deal, I'm like, at least give me 20 for a better deal, even though I probably deserve more. But I don't want to be in this same position that I'm in right now 3 months from now, again, every quarter I'm going to find myself in the same position if I sign this bad deal, knowing damn well I don't have to sign the bad deal. They don't have a gun to my head. It's actually me with a gun to their head because I can walk away. They don't have my music. They want my music. So that's what I'm talking about, where the desperation will come in and really make you make a bad decision. And my heart goes out to anybody in that position, because it's not easy. And like me saying, just say no, just negotiate for something better seems crazy because I've been in those scenarios where it's like the label, they're selling you a dream and you want that dream so bad. And your reality is so terrible that the fear overcomes your logic.
I will say I'm with Pain, and I'm not trying to be insensitive either, but it's like, if you're about to get evicted, you're gonna get evicted. The label, you're not gonna get that check in time, for one. But I will tell you, with the Def Jam situation, I was like living with a friend. I was like working all of these odd jobs. I was like babysitting for my cousin was literally asking me to babysit for her kids, knowing that I was struggling. But I'm like, if Def Jam is below, like I'm talking about their head of A&R, then their lawyer, then their junior A&R. And it was like on cycle, it'd be 9 a.m., 12 p.m., 3 p.m. They were calling me every day. I'm like, and I was broke, like, granted, I don't have kids, you know what I'm saying? I know that if I was ever in that situation where I couldn't afford to live anywhere, which is where I was at the time, I got people who are going to let me stay with them. So my situation is more secure. So I can't speak to somebody who's on the verge of like abject poverty situation. And I'm a hustler, so I know I'm always going to be able to get money. But I feel like Pain, as soon as they started calling me, I was like, oh shit, like we're in the power position now, which is why literally I had 17 changes I wanted made to the contract. They gave me 6.5. They doubled our money and they gave us they gave us 50% of the master. So it's like, but that shit took 4 months. We got paid 6 months later. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, by the time I got to that 4 months later, I was in a different financial situation, because my thought process was immediately, if Def Jam is blowing my lineup, like I'm 2 steps away from greatness. You know what I'm saying? A year later, I was full-time in the music industry making real money. But that's because my mindset was like, if they're hitting me up right now and we're in this situation, of course, everything that I want is a couple of steps away, and I'm still not there. But even this year, because of how good my last year was, and financially it wasn't great, but because of all the opportunities I had, I feel like I have the upper hand. So I do empathize and sympathize with people who are down in their luck. But if you think that talking to a label today and signing a bad contract is going to get you money tomorrow, it won't. Even if, you know what I'm saying, even if you're in a desperate situation.
Yeah, again, my experience was different. We did the deal with Warner. We got the money fairly quickly.
I've never gotten paid from a label, major or indie, in less than 90 days. Like,
Dave, how have you lived like the exception to everything?
Like, I'm talking about I was so surprised when I got paid in 93 days from UMG one time. 93 days is the fastest.
Yeah, that it's amazing. Oh my God. I harass. I have to harass every time.
I've never been on the producer side, and I hear terrible stories. And even with my recent, I helped a major label get some influencers to do some marketing for a song. That took a while to get paid. That took a few months. However, when we actually did the deal with Warner, that money came super quick.
I mean, my distro deals, I get paid almost the next day, but I've never done distro with a major. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm doing like Vidya and STEM. So when they send me the bread, it's in like 48 hours for sure. So maybe because yours was a distro deal, but I'm saying I've done consulting, we've done features, we've done all sorts of producing.
Yeah, all that money comes slow. All that money comes slow. But this was an advance for a label services deal. We didn't have to wait at all really for it. But yeah, I mean, I just know that there's people in really bad situations. But even if you're in the worst of situations, at the bare minimum, I would bring somebody that's knowledgeable in that would be able to tell you exactly kind of, or give you better advice on what leverage you have or how you should play this situation. Don't play the music industry game by yourself unless you have a lot of experience and you know exactly what you're doing.
And the thing is, if you can't afford a lawyer, if you don't know who to call, all that, find a music business executive who does consultations. Like even me, I've had people call me, they'll spend the $200 to get on the phone with me to ask me legal questions. And I'm like, I'm not a lawyer, but here's my opinion on this. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't feign ignorance, or don't be like, well, I can't afford it, whatever. Figure that shit out, because you could be leaving. What you can't afford is to leverage your whole future against saying that I can't afford a lawyer.
But here's the thing, though. Like, if you're dealing with a label, that means you're dealing with, a decent amount of money. And
because in this situation with my artist, they weren't going to pay her nothing. If she went and got a lawyer, they might have paid her $200.
What do you mean? But her lawyer said, yeah, you should take that.
No, they would have said no. And then she still would have been stuck paying the lawyer. That's where I feel like a lot of artists are scared, because they're like, the lawyer is going to tell me not to sign this. I don't have any leverage against the label. Now I also have to pay the lawyer and I have no deal. That's what a lot of artists think. That's why they don't hire lawyers, because they know it's a bad deal.
No, but there's a lot of lawyers that are on social media that I'm sure if you have something, like, I'm sure they get hit up all the time for stupid shit, and they're not dealing with nothing. It's artists that ain't doing nothing. They just want to ask questions because they think they got business going on. But if you got real business going on, if you are following the right people on Twitter and you send the right DM, like, somebody will hit you back and help you. There are some good lawyers out there. I don't want to say any names because I don't want to flood their inboxes, with a bunch of crap. But if you're following the MEC, if you're following, Payne, Erinn, the people that chime in, you can get help. I don't subscribe to, like, I didn't know what to do. Like, I
found my lawyer on a podcast, so I'm with you. And he showed me love when I couldn't afford him. So
yeah, there's some cool lawyers out there that, they don't want to see people get taken advantage of. And I guess when I was saying, like, hey, a lawyer will step in and help, is if you're doing like a deal if you're doing a deal with not a feature or something one-off, but if you're doing a deal with a major label, even financially incentivized, the lawyer will be even financially incentivized to come because if you work that deal out, I would imagine it's going to be more than $10,000. You can pay the lawyer for a few hours of work. So
yeah, you can agree to a percentage. Lawyers are flexible. I look at lawyers as the same as beat makers. We're flexible with the pricing.
Yeah, but there's shady versions of everybody out there.
Oh yes,
there's shady producers. What's your name? There's shady lawyers, shady managers. We haven't said KE in a while. No, don't shout out KE. But
no, shout out to KE. He made swag surfing. He's forever great. He just does terrible things.
We haven't talked about any of his scams lately, so hopefully he's just laying low and not plotting for the next one. Hopefully,
no. He every time I'm on YouTube, especially my own channel, he's advertising heavily on my channel. So he's still at it. Don't worry. And anyone who's concerned, don't worry, he's fine. He's still doing it.
Hilarious. All right, we can wrap it up. Next week, we'll talk about ways in which artists can be more productive. Artists and producers can be more productive in 2023.
I need that conversation.
We'll get to that next week. Also, I started the Independent Living podcast. I don't know if it's going to drop weekly because I got so much content from the first episode. I'm just going to wait until I release all the content, all the reels and stuff. But the first conversation with LaRussell, it was dope. I've also had conversations with Coda the Friend and Guap and Echo. So there's a lot of dope conversations coming up. The Independent Living podcast. We're gonna have a lot of changes to the MEC this year. We don't have specifics just yet, but stay tuned. We're still we're still dedicated and committed to giving you guys a lot of free games. So just stay tapped in, and we'll keep you posted on all the details.
Yes, sir. And until then, with Dame teasing all that amazing stuff.
Is the Excellence Academy on pause this month too, or do you still do the Excellence Academy?
So we're not open for any new enrollment until February, or until we relaunch, which is supposed to be the last week of January, first week of February, still figuring that out. But yeah, we're just finishing it out. We're finishing the book Atomic Habits. So no new people just yet, but you're about to hear a ton about the Excellence Academy, and the superstars, Dame and Payne, are going to get on. I'm just working on the schedule this month, and I'm going to invite them to be on with me. So don't worry, y'all. We'll be there.
Erinn says she's on a sabbatical, but I really think she's just doing a 2-month bid, because every time I see her, she got this green wall behind her, and she says
I'm doing a sabbatical from 2 of the 3 companies that I own. The Excellence Academy is the 3rd, so I'm working on that. You know what I'm saying?
Erinn then ran up in a label and choked somebody and got locked up. Now she's doing the MEC.
I got podcast. Shooters for that. I don't have to do the dirty work.
All right, we can wrap it up, Payne.
All right, that was a dense episode. I'm looking forward to the follow-up conversations.
I'm gonna get killed. It's all good. All your little Payne fans are gonna kill me. And I say I knew he was shady. That's all it's gonna say in the comments.
And it doesn't matter how many times I say like I would trust Dame with my entire life savings, and I mean that shit. But whatever. If you don't like Dame, my whole thing about that is like, how do you expect me to just let someone badmouth someone that I've had as a partner in this for years? People are funny out here. Everyone disagrees from time to time. And I don't even think Dame and Erinn were disagreeing today. I think we have very different perspectives, and I'm jealous as hell of Dame that he got paid on time from these labels. That's crazy.
And paid. You and I are very emotional beings, so that's part of it too. It's just
so is Dame. Dame's emotional in a different way. Dame is emotional, but it comes off as like stoic in business. Like, I don't know how he does it. We'll talk about that in another
I definitely have emotions. I got a lot of emotions. To be honest with you, I mean, how long have we been doing the MEC, Payne? Like 2016?
Long time.
Yeah, a lot of it is just like, I'm tired of y'all finding y'all in the same position. This shit is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
It's not bothering me, honestly, because I just know the protocol. It's like, if I work with a label, I know the first deal is going to be bad. I get to be upset for 5 minutes until I get my manager and the lawyer to handle it, and then they handle it, and life is good. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So life is good. Happy 2023. Shout out to everyone that supported the MEC podcast in 2022. And we're not going to stop giving you these episodes in 2023. Hopefully we'll step things up. We'll see how it goes. But we appreciate you. So until next episode, peace.
Peace.